good morning. Welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program, covering the current events on this Thursday. And the current events I'm looking at is titled "Realities We All Must Face for our loved one, our ourselves and our loved ones." So realities we must face for ourselves and our loved ones. So I'm going to talk about a few things today that are just current things that are going on in the news that are realities that we must face for ourselves and our loved one. If we don't, then we can always be in for surprises. So let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you for your word. And this day I pray to may bless us as we study, and may you bless the meditation of our minds for Christ's sake. Amen. So, looking at some realities that we must face for our loved ones and ourselves, and these realities are something that we all must deal with, we all must face. And when we face these realities, then we're truly understanding how life works, and that truly we have to number our days and live in that type of mindset. So I'll deal with those things. I have three articles I want to share and just talk about what we've been talking about, which is from Psalms 90, verse 12, which it says, "So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom." So we have to apply our hearts unto wisdom, and we have to number our days. And so there's some realities that we must face in order when we're numbering our days. So the Bible encourages us that in all our getting, we have to get knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And the younger we get knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, and the faster we get it, is the better it is for us. Because we cannot afford to live long as foolish people, and we can't afford to live long as naive. And so when we're dealing with certain realities, and I'll deal with three different concepts here in this life, we have to be able to learn quick and readjust our minds quickly that these are realities that we must face for ourselves and for our loved one, because we're not here forever, and things do go a certain way, and when they go a certain way, we have to be not shocked, whether it is for ourselves and for those that we love. In Job chapter 28, verse 28, it says, "And unto man he said, Behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding." So the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. So we want to be able to depart from evil and want to live in the fear of the Lord. And when we live in the fear of the Lord and depart from evil, our life is just better. So we want to be able to live that better life in the Lord by departing from evil. Notice here in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 20 through 23, 24, it says, "Wisdom cried without. She uttered her voice in the streets." So what I'm going to share with you just some articles to really say what's going on in the streets, so to speak, or in life that we must deal with. "She cried in the chief place of the concourse, in the opening of the gates, in the city. She uttered her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge, and fools hate knowledge. Turn ye at my reproof, behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. Because I have called and you refuse, I have stretched out my hand, and no one regarded or regarded." So there's things in life that we must face, and there's realities in life that we must face and deal with. And when we face them, it's for our best interests, and we want to be able to face these things. And so, without further ado, I'll just go straight into this idea. So, again, the concept is that we must number our days and understand that there are certain things in life that is just a process of life. This is life work. There's a structure to life, and there is a process to life that none of us will escape, or we all have to deal with. And because we're not here forever, we just have to deal with that structure of life. So the first thing is not just a structure of life, but there's this article I'd read and yesterday, and I wanted to share with you because I was thinking about the number of days that when you're young, you have to be able to face certain realities that is going on in society. And if not, you could perish quickly because you're just not facing certain realities. And so we want to be able to face those realities. And when we face those realities, our lives are just simply better. So we face the realities of life. So in this article, this is taken from USA Today, and it's an article where this young man perished from police fire bullets. But it takes to mind that there's certain behavior that when one does wrong or right, whatever happened, they could investigate in the shooting. That if you behave a certain way, you might end up with bullets, or you might end up dead, and you might not consider certain things, especially when you're young. As I say, when you're young, you have to be quick to not be foolish. You might think you have rights, but your right is to try to stay alive. So this is again USA Today, and it read it yesterday, and it's written by Michael Loria. So it's entitled "Seatbelt Violation Ends with Black Man Dead in Chicago Street After Cops Fired Nearly 100 Bullets." So cops fired nearly 100 bullets within a space of less than a minute. So notice here, for Sheila Banks, the late afternoon of March 21st began easy, with her son Dexter Reed heading out to enjoy his new SUV. Mama, he says, I'm going out for a ride, she recalled Tuesday. It ended with Reed, 26, that's the young man, being gunned down on a residential corner by Chicago police officers who fired nearly 100 rounds in less than 1 minute, according to the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, COPA, the city police watchdog agency. Officers said they pulled Reed over for not wearing a seatbelt, a contention that COPA questioned amid rising tension in recent week over the killing of killing and officers' use of deadly force. In released footage in the shooting Tuesday, the Police Accountable Board said Reed appeared to have fired first, but attorneys for the family said a deeper investigation needs to happen. They also said the traffic stop was unconstitutional and not the first time the Chicago cops have falsely claimed seatbelt violation as the impetus for confrontational pullover of drivers. Last but certainly not least, they alleged Tuesday that Reed was killed while unarmed, trying to surrender. So there's a contention. So obviously this has just happened, so it's under investigation. I'm not here for that part of it. I'm just here for the what is stated, and it's going to be it's interesting to see how this type of things go. So if you watch the end of the video, you'll see an officer, military style, executing Dexter while he laid by his vehicle unarmed and helpless, says Andrew M. Stroth, a prominent local civil rights attorney representing Reed's family. City official Mayor Brandon Johnson to State's Attorney Kim Cox lamented Reed's death, but have not said it warrants charge against the officers, which, if you look at the video, is not clear if it's warranting a charge against the officers. The shooting is the latest in a city that has long had a history of controversy surrounding police killing of men of color. The shooting happened the evening of March 21st after five plainclothes officers in an unmarked car pulled over Reed over a residential corner in West Side, the Chicago West Side. In newly released body cam, Reed is seen driving a white SUV with heavily tinted windows and a dent along the side, which you can see in the video. A female officers tell him to roll down his window. He does so. A black ski mask obscures much of his expression, but his eyes appeared wide. That there is strange to see in the video. So when you see the video, You see the officer up on in front of him, telling him to roll on the window. He's rolling the window, and I guess he rolls on the window. What it is, you see this black guy, or whatever they call it, African American, whatever they call black people, and they're there, and he's there with it, and he rolls on the window with a ski mask on. Very strange. You're in a heavily tinted vehicle, which for me over the years it probably looks cool, but I tend to believe that that's probably not the best thing to do. It's your freedom, but you have to be wise in this life. And he doesn't roll it down all the way, but he rolls it down, and he's sitting in the vehicle with his eyes wide open, as they say. How does he say it here? Rolls down the window, he does, in a black ski mask, but his eyes appeared wide. It seems strange. I don't know about you, but it seemed like a scary movie. Like, why would a person in the middle of the day have a ski mask on right in the middle in a car? I mean, it's your freedom to do that, right? Whatever you're into. But Reed resists rolling down other windows and unlock his doors, and the situation escalates. So that's where the camera picks up. He rolls on the window, and then he's not rolling down the other four windows. So you don't know if somebody's in the back of the car. To me, I find that to be a very dangerous situation for the police. I think in that situation, this is my personal opinion, the police is at a disadvantage. And because I'm thinking about it, if I was a police and somebody, I pulled somebody over, and whatever the excuse is, seatbelt, whatever. But I pulled the person over, whatever. That's a different story. And the person has a heavily tinted window. Is a young black guy, and he just me here, and he rolls on the window, and I'm looking at somebody with their eyes wide open and a ski mask in the car, and I can't see what's in the other side, what is going on in the car, because I can't see inside, because as they say it here, is a heavily tinted window. Not a tinted window, a heavily tinted window. Now that to me brings to mind, just right there again, as I read it, I was like, when I start reading the article, I say, this I don't think he is his days numbered, or did his parents teach him to number his day, or when he went to church, if he did the pastor teach him that he needs to number his days, and probably his days is numbered? Because that to me, if I was a police and I was dealing with someone like that, I would start thinking this person's days is numbered. Not that he need to number his days. His today's is a clock gonna struck. Probably he's gonna get bullets. You see, that to me, the police is at a disadvantage. And I think in wisdom we shouldn't put people at disadvantage like that. So, but Reed resists rolling down other windows and unlock his door, and the situation escalates. Reed began firing, officials said, hitting one of the officers, although it's unclear from the body footage who fired first. So we pause again there. When you see the footage, the police pull back quick. They start running. So something happened. I don't know if it's either one of them, probably a firecracker went off, whatever went off. I don't know what happened. But the police are scattered. And then they kind of run, and then they start firing. Officers fired on Reed 96 times in 41 seconds, according to an accountability board. So they just loaded the vehicle up, and they were firing all over the vehicle when you see the video. The officer continued firing after Reed's go down and is motionless. The body camera shows. In the video, an officer can be heard calling out that Reed gun is still in the car. Right? So here you have another part. So I think they should write the article backwards. They should write what the officer says happened and what the body camera says, and then what the people are saying that it was an execution says. Because then you come to that part of the article, you say, wait a second here. A gun is in the car? Anyhow, it's unclear why Reed was carrying a gun. So he has a gun. Huh. You see the problem there? So then now, each sentence after the other spell his days are numbered. He didn't number his days. Now, anybody can be killed by police deadly force illegally, but I think you should not do things that might aggravate your situation, you should, if you're gonna die, at least die innocently. And it's a crime, not die where there's question marks about you have gun in the car, heavily tinted window, you're driving around with a ski mask. Like, what is going on? He was awaiting trial. So notice here, he was awaiting trial on a gun case, according to Cook County court record. So they pull over somebody, whatever the reason is, they pull over. But he already, um, he's 20 something, mid 20s. He's driving around in a heavily tinted SUV, new SUV. He has a gun in the car, they're claiming. This all has to be fleshed out if it's true that he has a gun in the car. He's have a gun in the car. He's driving around a ski mask. You don't want to pull the three windows down. You don't want to open the door. And then something happened. And then the police just start loading him up. This now is something now. So somebody say, okay, so you say we must have these type of consideration for our families. Yeah. Like if you're a mother of a son like this, when he goes out like Job would do, you have to pray for God's mercy and deliverance, and that he might find Jesus and repent. Because whatever is happening, all of this, what we just read here, if it is true, it seemed like he numbers days. Now the investigation will come out and probably show something different, that the police basically is lying and stuff like that. Anything is possible. But if this come out to be true, then there's a problem here. That you're not, is this could be, this so far sounds like, if it's true that he probably numbered his days, not the police numbered his days, he numbered his days. And if you have family members living like this, then you sometimes probably need to keep some black clothes ready, to go to a funeral, because they not might die, they will die, and they probably should die, so to speak, because they're doing dumb stuff. So it's unclear why Reed was carrying a gun. He was awaiting trial on in a gun case. What do you mean in a gun case? We need to flesh that out a little bit more. This is this. So he has a bad habit. So then the police probably pull that up and realize, okay, this is somebody that is already have a case for gun. So you can see now, if the female police officer approached the car and she knew this, and the other officers on plainclothes officers knows this, they would be more on edge, because this already person has a record, so to speak. An officer hit in the arm in the shooting was in good condition after the shooting. So we don't know if it's him shot the officer. But imagine if somebody rolled on the window with their eyes wide open, and they have a ski mask on, and they already have a gun charge, if they knew that, a case pending, and you as an officer, what would you do? Whoever you are, what would you do? And if you know that, as I said, we don't know if the officer, when she pulled him over for whatever, knew that, okay, this guy here has a gun charge, pending case, probably has a gun in the car, and she's saying, roll the window down, roll all the windows down, because you want to see the person's hand, you want to see if they have a gun pointing at you. And then the person run. You can see, even if they run because they heard a firecracker or whatever, that alone even would be a reason to start loading them up with bullets, because you're already concerned that this person is dangerous. And so you can read. I'll read probably a little bit more, and then I'll stop and I move on to my next more thing, because some of these things, they're kind of a joke. Is young men basically devoid of understanding, as the Bible says, and they're doing stuff that's going to make them get bullets. And we have to be able to, if we have a family member, whether it be son, daughter, so to speak, cousin, brother, aunt, uncle, whatever, living like this, yes, you can die of police brutality, but you shouldn't aggravate the situation. Everything in this situation here spells he numbered his days. He did not. He made his days numbered. He didn't number his days, but his days was numbered. Notice here in last week, Andrea Kirsten, head of the accountability board, questioned the truthfulness of the officers who fired on Reed and the appropriateness of their response. She recommended that officers be stripped of their police powers while the board investigate. The board is uncertain how the officers could have seen the undone seatbelt given in a tinted window of Reed's car, and its position relative to the unmarked police vehicle. Also, it says the evidence raised serious concern about the validity of the traffic stop that led to the officers' encounter. So, most naturally, heavily tinted vehicle. How did the police officers pull him over? So, the whole, basically, I guess what they're saying here is that the whole start of the event was a pretext, if you want to call it, or wrong in itself. The officer response to Reed's report, gunshot, also raised serious question about the proportionality of the use of deadly force. The evidence recovered after the aftermath of this incident indicate that all four officers discharged their firearm at Reed after he exited the vehicle and was unarmed. In particular, she called out one officer for firing at Reed at least 50 times, including as he lay motionless. Kirsten wrote, the board has grave concern about the officer's ability to assess what is necessary, reasonable, and proportional use of deadly force. At a news conference Tuesday, Stroth and other attorneys decried the shooting as clear disproportionate use of force, that is overuse of force. One officer fined 50 out of so that means that he fined more than half of what the other officers fired. Reed had a gun, they confirmed, but an investigation would be needed to confirm that he fired first. The officer stressed that the search began with a pretextual, unconstitutional, and unreasonable search. That the latest example of the city failure to comply with federal order to reform its police. Dexter is not here because the action or inaction of the administration of this police chief, the mayor Stroth said, referring to freshman mayor and Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling. How many more black and brown men are going to die before the city will change? Chicago legacy of interracial interaction between police and civilian historically so sad that in 2019 a federal judge ordered the city to reform its police following a Department of Justice investigation in 2014, a murder of Laquan McDonald by Officer Jay Van Dyke. I'll go a little bit more. It says in 2019, federal decree in particular called Chicago Department use of tactical unit. Say basically they overuse their unit. And as you know, Chicago's been coming up. Chicago is one of those places where the policing is over the top. And as I say, you can finish reading out that article. So they're questioning the constitutionality of the pullover. And you've probably been in that situation. Well, probably I've been in that situation where somebody see you and then they pull you over, and then you kind of think what it is. You know, like I remember one time a police, I think I've been to me more than once. Well, one time a police pulled me over because, you know, when you go to a dealership, right? You go to a dealership, sometimes they'll put a little black border thing with the dealership name over the license plate. I remember one time I got pulled over and the police was saying it was blocking something crazy like that. And I was like, really? Because everybody has that. You know, something silly. And so, but you know, sometimes the person is fishing. I remember one time a police pulled me over and he kept on looking in the vehicle, like just looking around the vehicle, like he's looking for something. And I'm like, why is he jumping? It just so happened that, interesting enough, I'd had somebody that was in law enforcement in the vehicle with me, and they didn't really say nothing. They they were concerned too. They were like, man, that police is jumpy. But that was very interesting that I got pulled over by a cop, and then there was a person in law enforcement in the vehicle with me, and they didn't say nothing the whole traffic stop, but they were concerned also because they felt like the police himself was just too jumpy. I don't know how you say that in American term. When a person is jumpy, they seem agitated. They seem like they're looking for something. The traffic stop is not good enough. and the person was concerned also because I was concerned and they were concerned. They were like, why is he behaving like this? looking for something. Is I don't know if it's a coda or whatever it's doing, but the person didn't say nothing, and everything went well. But you can see that sometimes you have it's like I don't know if the police sometimes at war and the society is at war. But in that situation, when I'm pulled over, always state to myself, this is my attitude. My attitude is that I have no constitutional right when I'm pulled over by police. That's my attitude. I don't have no rights. My thing is I'm trying to. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but I'm trying to de-escalate because when I realize when I pull over the police, I'm really not dealing with the state or the federal government. I'm dealing with that human being, and that's my personal take. I don't view it as I have rights. I view it as I need to figure out how to. Now, there's been time when I pull over and I start to cry for my rights, so to speak, or cry that what is all this about? Because I believe it's unfair. But that one time was interesting because even the person was in law enforcement thought that says the pullover was a little bit the behavior of the police was off. So then it wasn't my opinion then because they saw for themselves. So but it was good that that person was there in the car with me at least. And so I was calmer because I realized okay somebody can testify that something's not off, there's something's wrong here. But when you're in that situation now, my thinking on this now. So why did I bring you here? When you're in a situation like that, and you might have rights, the police might pull you over unconstitutionally, so to speak. That your situation is that you have to deal with that person that you're dealing with. That's how I look at it. Not that I don't have any constitutional right. My right now is my situation is at hand, right? I'm dealing with the person. And for whatever reason they pull me over or whatever, I have to play ball with that person as much as I can. And as much as I can assess the situation. Because suddenly you have to assess the situation. And you could get mad as ever, but you still have to assess the situation that at the end of the day, you don't want to be in a situation where there is an investigation, right? You want to figure out how to get out of the situation. And we all have emotions and stuff like that. You might think it's wrong. But when we talking about number in these days, you have to understand, to me, my I always look at it is that, and I don't know, probably I'm not explaining my point well here. But my understanding is that I'm not dealing with the state at that point. I'm dealing with the person because something could go down and, they could arrest you, they could shoot you, they could whatever. And you have to try to assess the person and assess the situation and try to de-escalate as much as possible, or be as friendly as possible, because at that point it could be your life is in that person's hand, and sometimes the only way to deal in that situation is the humble, compliant way. Here's your driver's license, here's my insurance, here's my registration, whatever. You just the person just have a day. You don't want to deal with somebody that probably they just had an argument at home with their spouse and now they're mad and they're gonna take it out on you. So you can make it be that that person number your day. So yes, the traffic stop seemed very dubious because the person not having a seatbelt on, probably the person had passed the police somewhere and they had seen that. But from the point of view, they said, well, he didn't have a seatbelt on. But okay, 20 something years old, he might be driving without a seatbelt. But still, at that point, police pull you over, it's an unconstitutional pullover that start the cascade of events. Why would one police fire 50 times? Makes no sense. The article says he emptied his clip and then reclipped it. So he was just constantly fine. By the time the police came over to him, he was still alive, but he was on the ground, shot. What all of that? So the situation there, I think, is one has to say, yeah, I have constitutional right, but I have a right to, as I say, remain silent and so forth and so on. A right to not aggravate the situation, to understand that I'm in a disadvantage. And that's how I look at it. If I'm interacting with the police, I'm always in a disadvantage. And it doesn't matter if the police is whatever race or whatever. I just look at it, I'm in a disadvantage. I'm not, due process and stuff like that might has to be worked out if the situation escalates and then I'm alive. So that's also how I look at it all the time, because the person has a right. You know, a police is legally has a right, even if they're doing something immoral, they have a right to kidnap you, or to kill you, execute you. They're given the right to commit the death penalty on the spot, and they're given a right to kidnap you. So you have to figure that out and figure out. It doesn't matter if he's wrong or right or she's wrong or right. That's their legal rights. They can kidnap you and they might be wrong, but you have to try to figure out how to survive to be able to probably get justice. Other than that, you don't make your days be numbered like that. So I think ski masks, gun charges, tinted window, not rolling on the window, getting people aggravated. Uh, it creates a problem. 40 something, 90 something bullets in less than 40 something seconds. They have problems over there in Chicago. That's obvious. All right. I want to go to something else. And another thing in there, they're talking about number in our days, so to speak, that is on a total different wavelength. I didn't know how to roll all of this in one talk, so I decided to just talk about it. So instead of having our days numbers, probably shouldn't have spent so much time on that talk, because that thing is question marks all over it for the police and the guy. And for me, I always think, for me personally, I just think you tell your especially if you have a young boy, and if you have a young girl, but more young boy, you're trying to stay alive and just comply and not get yourself in trouble. So anyhow, this other article now is on a total different wavelength, right? We're going to talk about number in our days, and knowing that says we all have 70 years to live. So I have two articles on this type about aging. So can I claim my parents as my dependent? This article written by Medora Lee. All right, so Miss Lee here, right? I think that's a female. Say, can I claim my parents as dependent? This tax season, more Americans are opting in. So I can't go through all this article, but I'll take a piece of it with you here. You can read the rest of it. If this applies to you, there's some advice that is good that I think it's uh, public service, so to speak. Most parents, she claims here, most parents claim their children as dependent on their taxes. But now an increased number of Americans are claiming their parents, according to recent survey. More than 54% of Americans aged 25 or older with a living parent said they claimed their parents on their taxes this year. And 53% of them said they started doing so in the last 2 years, according to Caring.com survey last month of more than 4,000 people. So they surveyed 4,000 people, Caring.com, and Caring.com surveyed 4,000 people, and the respondent says that more than 54% of those people. So this might not be, it could, well, say if it's random, that's interesting, but it's a high number in my mind. So 54% of Americans says age 25 and older are living older older with a living parent said that they claim parents on their tax this year. So they have a living parent. So this number, I don't know how big this number is, because I wish they'd give me a little bit more. And there's going to give me some more. I'll read a little later on. But this is important. So it's living parents. They claim them, all right, on their taxes this year. And 53% of that number, so it's not as high, but 53% of that number of people said they started doing so in the last 2 years. So this is important, because why this is becoming bigger and bigger each year, and things like this becoming bigger and bigger, more important. And you'll hear me more start talking about this type of thing with older adults, because more and more baby boomers and the next generation are hitting 55, 60, 65, 70, 80, so forth. And now they're having their children taking care of them. So imagine how that has changed. So this is important for us. Now, why this is important for me is 2 weeks ago, I think, or 3 weeks ago, I was having a conversation with a gentleman that was, I think he was like 60, something like that. He's 60, and he's taking, or he's a little bit older than 60, sorry. He's a little bit older than 60. He's beyond 60, but he's taking care of his father, he says, who was 93. And he lives with his father, interesting enough, because he said he had a divorce and then he moved in with his father. So I thought that was interesting. And now he's a father's caregiver. Now I don't know how that situation will go in a tax because obviously his father's not working, but his mom has passed away and his father, he cares for his father, right? So, but he's living in the home of his father because he moved back home. Interesting enough, he moved back home. That's fascinating. At 60 something, past 60s, you move back home with your parent. So I don't know how that will work for this article, but it was interesting having that discussion with him, and he was telling me, how that going, and I was like, wow, this is a development. So when I saw this article, I was like, wow, this is really happening more and more. And I'm finding out this is happening, especially when you reach a certain age. As I said, this is for people 25 and older. Their parents now they start taking care of their parent. Very interesting. So notice here, poverty among older adults at least 65 years old has grown faster than any other age group in the past few years as inflation has risen, Census Bureau data shows. So again, another interesting fact that we're going to have to be talking about in some upcoming programs when we talk about retirement and stuff like that. So people 65 and older, they're experiencing the fastest rate of poverty. That left many adult children supporting their parents and claiming them as dependent to save potential thousands of dollars in tax help defray those costs. More than 48 million Americans are caregivers. So 48 million, so that's more than 10% of the population are caregivers. If my numbers serve me right off my head, that would be, so that would be about 15% of the population are caregivers. Um, so 48 million Americans are caregivers, providing $470 billion in unpaid care for their loved ones. So obviously that is calculated in various different ways because that number is humongous. But again, we're talking about 48 million, 15% of the population. So, and I believe this number is going to grow each year. Just the mere fact that in 2 years, that number has grown. That's doing everything from helping prepare meals and paying bills to assisting with medication and medical slash nursing tasks in order to help parents, spouses, and other loved ones live independently in their homes. All right, so I say this because I don't want you to miss the point of what this have to do with, the Lord to help us remember our days, our number days. Why we have to number days with this type of situation is simply this, right? There's a lot of time you deal with a person and they get to a certain age and they seem like they shocked that the age came. So my thinking is this, that we have to know the structure of life. And when we know the structure of life, basically what we're doing here, we're saying, when you're at 5, you go to preschool, whatever. You get to 17, 18, you graduate high school. By mid-20s, you're supposed to be able to have a career. By 35 to 40s, you're supposed to be hitting your peak of your money-making years. And then when you start to get into like your late 40s, 50s, so forth, you're supposed to be prepping up or thinking retirement, hopefully thinking retirement probably when you were younger. But at least by the time you reach in your 40s, 50s, late 40s, 50s, you're really supposed to start thinking, what is going to happen to me? Then for us who's into health, we have to start thinking, which is going to be the last article I'm going to share. We start thinking, what happened to me if my aging process goes bad and I age out real fast? Because we're all going to age and get frail, more frail, so to speak. What? Then what happens? So we have to number days. We have to number it as what. So what I'm basically saying here, the first article is numbered. You get it. Your days are numbered. That's a different story. But these last two articles now, and my attitude in life more and more, is that I want to be able to teach you and people that listen to me at least that you need to number your days. In other words, you need to understand each process of life that the body will break down. You will get older. You need certain care, certain support. It's expensive to get old. So when you're in your prime of life, you're making most money. Some of that money has to be silver hair, rainy day money. If you don't do that, you're not numbering your days. So that's why I'm here. And I'm realizing now that whether it be for, it could be a health crisis or just poverty because people didn't prepare or whatever reason, or you just can't work anymore. Your money making years are the years where you have your energy is not supposed to be wasted on just fun, fun, fun and party, party, party. And it's not supposed to be wasted on drugs and alcohol and stuff. Some of that money that you're making today is not money to be spent for today. That's the reality. And if you're living life where everything you're making today, if you have to literally cut back, pull back, and make and spend less money because some of that money has to go for tomorrow, then you're wasting you're just wasting brain space and time and money. Also, if you're making money, if you're having health now, understand that, so you have to do things to conserve that health, because you want to be able to do older, healthier, and to basically be more able to live healthy life, a healthier life in your older age. Okay, older age, as I say, as you know, can be the best years. If you don't do that, you could end up becoming in a situation that you're gonna pay seriously, and you could do it younger. Because I've dealt with people who were in their 60s and they were already done physically. They were nursing home patients in their 60s, and so you don't want to be that. So anyhow, we continue. I'll take a few more articles. I can't do much more here, but anyhow, the average caregiver in the United States spent $7,242 in out-of-pocket costs in 2021, according to AARP. Many caregivers also are part of the so-called sandwich generation, simultaneously taking care of their parents and children. Of the 54% of Americans claiming their parents on their taxes this year, 74% have at least one child dependent, Caring.com says. So you see what's going on? So of the people, not 54% of Americans do this, but for of the people who claim their parent, and in a few minutes, I'm going to read where the article, not going to go all through of it, but the article can give you some things to do for tax, which is probably a little bit late because tax season is just about over. But anyhow, but of the people who claim their parents on their tax, 74% of those people also are having children to care for. So they're caring for both. So I was having a conversation recently, and the conversation we were having was with intergenerational family. Now, more and more, this thing is developing in America, where you have family, where now it's not just two generation in sense of the grandkids and the child living in the home, but the grandparent, the child, and the grandkids living in the same home. This is becoming whatever, because the cost of it, because you think about it, if you have a house and the average house is costing this, some of those houses you need two families, literally two group of people to pay for it. So this can be actually also good for finances, because if you have a parent who is already probably old enough, they're collecting Social Security and so forth, Medicare, and they live at home and they occupy a room in the house, that could actually be a good thing, especially if they're not at the nursing home level, they're probably at the assisted living level, where they need some assistance, but they're not full on care. So you're cooking, you're cooking for them. When you clean, you're cleaning for them. Your electric bill, all that stuff they're part of that. That can be a good way to also subsidize one existence. That's a different story, but that's something we're going to be talking about in the future. As baby boomer generation continues to age, we see how stretched thin the sandwich generation truly is, said John Farrell, Caring.com director of financial planning and analysis. That's why we've seen a jump in Americans also claiming parents as dependent. So in other words, they just move the parent in. And as I say, I've known people my age and a little bit younger who start to have to do that, where they have family members living with them. So some quick things here for your information that the author put down. It says, check your status. You can't be claiming as a dependent anyone, you can't be claimed as a dependent on anyone's return if your parents file a joint return. You may not be able to claim them as a dependent unless your parent is filing a joint return to claim a refund for withholdings or estimated tax paid. Your parents must be a U.S. citizen, U.S. national, U.S. resident, U.S. resident alien, or a resident of Canada and Mexico. So that's the only thing I would want to clarify. And I'm going to spend time clarifying that in my for my head. So is it the person is a resident alien or U.S. citizen but live in Canada and Mexico? Are you claiming them as a dependent? Because some people they could do 6 months in America, 6 months outside of America, or a few months, and then they stay at your home and you claim that you help, whatever. Anyhow, your parents' gross income can't exceed $4,700 tax for the tax year of 2023, and 2024 is 5,500 because of inflation, right? So $5,050, sorry, in 2024. So that means if they work a part-time job and you claim them, they can't make over $5,000. And so your financial support must exceed your parents' income by at least $1 during the tax year. To calculate your support, use fair market value of your parents' room in your house, the cost of food you provide, the cost of utilities, medical bill, and general living expense you provide. So that means that when you add up all that, and you say your parents made work a part-time job, I'd say Lowe's, and they made $5,049, and then your cost of taking care of them is $5,051 or $50 or whatever it is. Then you can claim them, something like that. So no, and it says the parents don't have to live with you per se, and then some other things. It would be too much for me to go through. You can go through that. Just in fact, in interest in development, these are current developments that are happening. As I said, there's more intergenerational homes had in America because of, I would say, because of the cost of living, number one or two, and then number one and two again because of the baby boomer generation getting older and need more caregivers. So now you have people dependent living with you, moving in, occupying a room, that type of thing. This is something that I believe is going to keep developing as we see people aging out. And to be clear, there's, as I said, you could have it where a person is even in their 50s and they need to live with somebody. And that's how things have been shaken out. Last thing here, before I go back to Psalms 90. So remember, we have to number days. We have to understand that things flow in a certain cycle, and we have to prepare for certain inevitabilities. So the reality that all must face are for ourselves and for our loved ones. And so we have to live life soberly and live life where we just understand, yeah, this is how life works. And just work with life instead of working against life. So I've been kind of following this because this is a very famous person that I know. This is about Jay Leno. So if you've seen it in the news, but Jay Leno was petitioning the court for conservatorship of his wife. So he wanted to become the one that take care of all of her affairs, because she can't anymore. So Jay Leno granted conservatorship, saying that wrong, of his wife's estate following dementia diagnosis. So again, you find it says NBC News, and I think, just the regular news section, and it's right by Diane Dashrath and Mignon Burke, interesting name. Former late night talk show host Jay Leno was granted conservatorship of his wife's estate after he revealed that she is suffering from dementia. Leno, 73, and I think his wife is 77, yeah, is suitable, is quote unquote suitable and qualified to be a conservator of Mavis Leno's estate, according to court document filed Tuesday in Los Angeles Superior Court. His first, he first filed for conservatorship in January. The petition said Mavis Leno, 77, had been progressively losing capacity and orientation to space and time for several years. So this has been an ongoing decline. So these are considerations that we, to me, when we talk about numbering our days, what we have to number our days. These are not happy thoughts. These are those thoughts that we have to recognize, right? That as we age out and get older, there's things that can happen to us. Various different lifestyle diseases, various different degenerative diseases that could happen. And if they do happen, people have heart attack, stroke, all kind of different things. Parkinson's, dementia, what else? All these different things that are genetic, clinically, lifestyle disease, these things happen by accident. And when these things happen, we have to consider what next, how things gonna go. And that's why it's good to have good people in our lives that are caring. It's good that Jana, because I think later on the article says, I'll read it in a second, that he's been with her for 40 something years. So these are tough. Yeah, it's good when when you come into a marriage, especially in this situation, it's a marriage. And I think they have no children, but you're committed for better or worse, for richer or poor. In their situation, I guess they got richer. In sickness and in health. But oftentimes when people say that, they say that at the happy times, when they're young and everything is great. But what happens when things go south? Then you have a problem. So these things, you have to number your days. You have to know that what happened if these things happen to me. Who's going to take care of me? And that's part of numbering your days, knowing that, say, we all going to grow old and die. So not happy. Everything here is sickness and death I'm talking about. so this is the reality. I guess it's not the way to start your day, right? But these are things that we have to face. We just have to face the fact that we all grow old, and dementia is something that we could face. Last week, a court-appointed lawyer recommended approving Leno's request, saying his wife's sometime does not know her husband, Jay, nor her date of birth. So the dementia is really setting at that point. And I've dealt with people, multiple people, many people who had dementia. It's very tough to watch. The lawyer who spoke with Mavis Leno and her doctor said in a court filing that she experiences a lot of disorientation and will ruminate about her parents who have both passed. So if you've dealt with somebody with dementia, they can pull something from way back and start talking about it as if it's present, and it's no longer present. And so this is part of, to me, numbering your days. Just understand that we're not here forever, and this is part of what life goes. The lawyer said that Leno and his wife have a long-term loving and supportive relationship, and that Leno's petition was necessary to protect them both, which makes sense. Leno, a former host of NBC Tonight Show, and his wife have been together for more than 43 years. So that's longer than probably some of you listening to me here. Throughout that time, Leno has always handled their finance. The petition filed in January said the couple do not have any children. Yeah, which is, I think I knew that. So 40 something years, I say longer than some of you have been alive. So what does that do for you and I? It tells me that one has to know that these things happen, that one has to number our days. One have to know that says there's these realities that happen, and when they happen, there's nothing we can really do about it, but we can just prep up ourselves and our minds for it. At least the good part about it is that they have the financial wherewithal to do it. The bad part about it is that is very part of the difficulty of life, the reality of life that we face. Like I always say, you can look at life like you're in a what do you call it, like a plane or a helicopter or one of these things that hover, and you're looking at down at the forest, and everything look beautiful. You see the canopy, but then when you get down at the ground level of the forest, and then you start to see the beautiful things at the ground level, but also you're gonna start seeing insects and bugs and critters and animals and trees and plants and flowers. The beautiful and the not so beautiful stuff that is signs of wonder and something that is not. Reality changes when you come up close. And so we have to deal with the closeness of the reality that when we come up close. But you're young, sometimes you really don't think about these things. But as you get older, you start to say, wow, this is possible. And if this happened to me, a stroke or whatever, what next? And you start to number your days and understand that you make preparation where you can for certain things. And now I might not think about certain things and make preparation, but when you get a certain age, you have no choice because this might happen. We all rust out and bust out, and we all start creaking and cracking. At a certain age, one might do it later than the other, but we all do it sooner or later. So you make your preparation, and especially if you can make your preparation in long term and start thinking long term, then that's where you have a better situation. So again, I'll read for closing this text that more today. I went there, which is this text probably is more used in a funeral, but this text I believe in all parts of life. Sometimes to make you avoid a funeral, and to make you avoid some of these bad results that happen in life by making some preparation, by thinking on these things, and not just going through life vapid and naive and ignorant and like a young foolish person, not understanding that this life has a process to it and a process that works, and it works. It will not discriminate. You will get it also. In Psalms 90 verse 1, it says, Lord, thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or even thou hast formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. Thou turnest man to destruction and sayest, return, ye children of men. For 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it passed, and as a watch in the night. Thou carriest them away as with a flood. They are as asleep. In the morning they are like grass which groweth up. In the morning it flourisheth and groweth up, and in the evening it is cut down and wither. For we are consumed by thine anger, and by thy wrath we are troubled. Thou hast set our iniquities before thee, our secret sins in the light of thy countenance. For all our days are passed away in thy wrath. We spend our years as a tale that is told. And that's very important to me, this concept that we spend our years as a tale that is told. You might not understand the tale that is told, but if you just look at somebody before you, then you can see the tale that is being told. The days of our years are 60 years and 10. And if by reason of strength they be 60 years, yet is their strength labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off and we fly away. Who knoweth the power of thine anger? Even according to thy fear, so is thy wrath. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Return, O Lord, how long? And let it repent thee concerning thy servant. O satisfy us early with thy mercy, that we may rejoice and be glad all our days. Make us glad according to the days wherein thou hast afflicted us, and the years wherein we have seen evil. Let thy works appear unto thy servant, and thy glory unto their children. And let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish thou the work of our hands upon us. Yea, the work of our hands establish thou upon us. So I pray that God may bless you towards this, that you might be aware that, as I say, retirement, old age, doing things to stay alive, because our aim is to live and not die. May this be upon you, that you may really see God may establish his work in your hand, and that God may bless you in all your ways. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you, dear Lord, for calling us, dear Lord, to be sober and to be vigilant and to live a life, dear Lord, of sobriety and to be aware of all things that we might experience in this life. May you bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. Well, thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow, where we should talk about wisdom. Until then, our religion. Until then, I pray that you will continue to walk with the King.